Good day, and welcome to the new program on Sankhya Television called The Omkar. My name is Omkar from my previous program, Diksha. This is, you can say, a follow up program concerning Hinduism. Previously, Diksha was a program about more philosophy based more on Vedic science and the teachings of Sanatan Dharma. But this program takes a slightly different angle where, in an effort to help understand modern Hinduism, we look at, beside philosophy, beside the principles of Sanatan Dharma, we will look at what is available to us on the internet today. As you can see, the style of the program is more of a podcast style program, so it's a bit different in terms of format, and these will be posted on social media as well as being broadcast on Sankhya Television network. And so any feedback, any comments, you can always feel free to touch base on Facebook, on our YouTube page, on TikTok, and leave some feedback on what you think about the program and the new format. Now, the topics being discussed will be vast. It will be in an effort to help understand what modern Hinduism is about and trying to give some definitions also on what Hinduism is about. Now, you won't be able to see it, but the setup here I have a laptop. So I'll have a laptop screen that I'll be pulling up during the program to show some of the references I'm making when I look up information. So, for example, this episode is What is Hinduism? And I think it might be a good place to start. Now, one thing I see popping up a lot in terms of what we see on the internet is the AI overview. And so this is something I have been warning people about when it comes to AI, because a lot of people might be looking at AI as the definitive guide to what the truth is. Or let me just move this camera out of the way a bit. So we might be looking at AI as the definitive guide on what Hinduism is when we look at anything concerning scripture. And one of the warnings I'm giving to people is the fact that the AI is being trained by whoever owns it. And so whatever information is being fed to the AI is what you will see coming up in the search results. And this poses a fundamental problem because a lot of the history that is being presented here on the AI platform is based on American history or even European history. So the AI companies themselves, they are not Indian or they are not Hindu based. So the information that you are getting is biased towards Western culture, but especially biased towards Christian culture. For example, what is Hinduism? And if we go down to Wikipedia, which should be probably at the top of the list in our search results, you will see, so Britannica, which is British, 4 days ago was updated. And then even Wikipedia. When you look at these websites, So I'm waiting on my internet here. So when you look at these websites and you look down to the references of if there are any people who they are saying that they are quoting or who is weighing in. So I'm just looking for somebody who would have. Okay, so I'm just seeing a name popping out here. So let's see if I could get their full name. So Hatcher, I don't know who Hatcher is here because I'm just scrolling, but Hatcher doesn't sound like a Hindu person. Or I'm trying to see who Hatcher is here. But the point is here, what we are being told is Hinduism is not being told to us by Indians who would have been privy to a lot of the historic texts or even religious institutions in India. So I'm seeing another name popping out here according to Brian K. Smith. Now, nothing against Brian K. Smith, but the purpose of what I'm trying to show you here is that we have these Westerners telling us what Hinduism is, where the religion itself of Hinduism is based on scripture and the teachings of the gurus. So, for example, Valmiki, who would have authored the Ramayana, should be the authority on Ramayana. Or some of the disciples of Valmiki or the schools that would have popped up in India to study Ramayana and pass down the literature. But instead you have these Westerners telling us what Hinduism is. Nothing against the Westerners. Probably they did their research. Probably they would have done extensive training in Sanskrit and the scriptures. But it's a point I make to people that we have, I hardly ever see in terms of reading that it's a, like a Swami they would have quoted or somebody who would have trained in scripture. So that's one of the points I want to make early on in this program, is that I'm trying to look past the Western definitions of what we are being told. Another thing that I notice happening, so I'll pull back the website again, is that, so for example, if you look at how old is Hinduism, right? So we're saying approximately 4,000 years old, making it one of the world's oldest religions. And I find that interesting because the reason, again, is because the AI and what we are being told about Hinduism is based on the Western or the Christian world. Nothing against Christianity, but we are talking about in terms of historically, because, for example, the Christians' history, they will know that the Jewish religion was there at the time of Christ, so they have their religious background. So if I was to, example, look for how old is Judaism, nearly 4,000 years. Nearly 4,000 years old. So Hinduism and Judaism is the same age according to Western standards. But the scriptures in Hinduism claim a much older timeline for Hinduism. And this is the point I'm trying to make here, is that as Hindus, when we read our scripture, we are confused sometimes because we are seeing dates that seem to contradict what we are being told in scripture. That's the point I'm trying to make. So we are seeing dates, for example. I'll pull back up my internet here. So if we say, how old is Ramayan? The Ramayan, you will see that it gives a date of 7th to 5th century BCE, which is 700 years or 500 years before Christ existed. If you look at how old is Mahabharat, so how old is the Mahabharata? So the Mahabharata is estimated to be roughly 3,500 to 4,000 years old. But, well, in this right here, so the Ramayana, the events of which we are told based on the books themselves, the events of the Mahabharata happen after the events of the Ramayana. But here, AI and the AI is trained by the Western world, so the Christian-based society. The AI is telling us that the Mahabharata is older than the Ramayana, which is the Ramayana is 500 years to 700 years before Christ existed. That's here. But the Mahabharata is older than the Ramayana, according to AI. So the point being made here is that the discrepancy that you see even with the AI is something we have to look at when we refer to or when we analyze Hindu scripture. So I'm not trying to discredit the AI, but we have to realize what AI is, because it's very new. It's a very new technology, and a lot of people are using AI to discredit or to challenge religious scriptures. But here I have pointed out the flaw of AI, which is it is being trained by a Christian-based society, but it is being trained to tell us about the Hindu society. And then, for example, the Christian-based society puts the Hindu history or historical timeline very close to the Christian-based or the Jewish timeline, because the Jewish timeline is the recognized religion at the time of Jesus Christ. So Old Testament, for example, will be based on Jewish religion and history. Now, I'm not saying this to discredit any particular religion. It is not about a, let's say, they say, we say kind of thing. But when it comes to Hinduism, so specifically Hinduism I'm dealing with now, we tend to think, especially us here in the Western world outside of India, but a lot of people in India as well, we tend to think in terms of the Christian timeline. And, well, as I just pointed out, there are discrepancies. And a lot of the Christian or the Western timeline does not take into account the Hindu timeline. So, for example, the Hinduism say that the universe is billions of years old. They give the cycles of the yugas, that there's always creation and destruction, and everything happens again and again. We have, for example, what you might call Hindu artifacts that prove the theory to be reality. So, for example, I don't know how many of you know or have looked up things that have popped up that prove the age of certain claims of Hinduism. So, for example, like if you just do a quick Google search, 10,000 year old Hindu city, right? So we do a 10,000-year-old Hindu city. Again, waiting on my internet. Right, so, and again, this is important to note. While no city is definitively proven to be 10,000 years old, specifically Hindu, archaeological evidence suggests the existence of ancient settlements in India. Now, I want you to pay attention to something here, which is that there's no definitive proof, right? For example, so you have Dwaraka. So we have Dwaraka, the 35,000-year-old city. So sunken city of Dwaraka, 32,000 to 9,000 years old. So at the end, so whatever this is, Indian People's Congress. So I don't know the website. I was just randomly clicking here, but just to make a point, where archaeologists usually use events as a reference point. So, for example, Dwaraka is a sunken city. That was told to us in the Mahabharata that at the end of Krishna's lifetime, that the city of Dwaraka sank into the ocean. And Dwaraka has been found to be below the ocean, and it was due to the rise in sea levels. Now, the last ice age was 32,000 years ago, according to the internet. And so, for the city of Dwaraka to sink, among other ancient cities, the event would have had to happen 32,000 years ago. The thing there means that Dwaraka was older than 32,000 years old. So, you have reference in scripture to the city of Dwaraka. You have now, a city doesn't just pop up. A city has to have culture. A city has to have some form of structure, engineering, mathematics in order to build these structures. So technology has to exist. Science has to exist. And so but again, that will be unconfirmed. The reason it's unconfirmed is because, like I said in the beginning, our history or the timeline we are looking at is based on based on Christian timeline, not Hindu timeline. So when we see things like this popping up, so I believe, I'm not sure. Like I say, I'm randomly clicking here. So you have images of, this will be AI on this side, but you have somewhere you have real images. So I believe this may be one of the real images. Now, the whole point of this episode is like an introduction. So what is Hinduism was the original point of the episode. And the point made is that we cannot look at the internet to give us the information straightforward. We have to be discerning. So how old is Hinduism? We have to be discerning because we are being told something here, simple as AI, for those who want to use AI as the go-to. We are being told something. But historically, if you look at evidence, even across the internet, this does not make sense. This statement does not make sense that Hinduism is 4,000 years old. So you have to be careful when you are looking up things and depending on AI to give you the honest answer. Probably in the future, AI may learn from other religious scriptures, but, well, the fact is AI could only learn from what is available on the internet. So if you have, for example, ancient texts that are in temples being guarded by the swamis and the monks and sages, you have history that will not be available to AI. right? So that's my short introduction for, well, the introductory episode for what to expect on this new series. The series is called The Omkar. My name is Omkar, and I look forward to seeing you as we journey through sifting through the internet. Most of the episodes are going to be based on my commentary on what is being found online. A lot of what I do is reading online, but more like dissecting the information that pops up, because you cannot look at any one source. Anybody can post anything online. A lot of people can say anything that they want, and the quickest go-to for a lot of people is to Google and look at the first or the top result. As I pointed out here, the top result is not always the most trustworthy result, and so I will kind of sift through, and we'll take deep dives when the opportunity presents itself into finding or trying to get to the depths of the information. Another thing I will try to do in this new series is define the different schools of Hinduism for people to understand, and that way some clarity and some understanding may come to a lot of people, because from my experience dealing with young people especially, there is a lot of confusion when it comes to Hinduism. Confusion probably from no definitive lines being given, probably confusion from there's a mixing of information and philosophies in Hinduism. So, just a classification or a sorting out of the information that we would receive, so that people can probably better compartmentalize and analyze in the individual segments, so that they can understand Hinduism. It is a series based on, let's say, it's a spin-off from the Diksha series, so not too much philosophy here, but there will be some philosophy in it, and I hope to enjoy your company. Like I said, for those who have comments or feedback or suggestions about this series, please feel free to visit Sankhya's YouTube page, where this will also be posted. Feel free to visit our Facebook page, where this will also be posted, and you can leave comments so we can have some feedback and some interaction with the public as we go forward. Anyone who wants to come on the program and have a discussion with me on the topics, we can deep dive through the internet, comment together on what we see, we have a discussion. This is an open forum program, open to information, or let's say conversation with anybody who wants to join me. So thank you for joining me on this episode of the Omkar. My name is Omkar, and I'll see you next time.